Finally, Dylan, you're finally doing something with the bald guy. Not
Yeah.
quite what I expected to do with you, but here we are. PWHL Seattle unveiled their inaugural season jerseys this morning. Dylan, myself, some other media folks were outside of Climate Pledge Arena this morning at like what 10 in the morning. As the
Yeah.
sun was, you know, it created an interesting photo situation, that's for sure.
I was
Um,
gonna say credit to all the photogs who were there for dealing with that sun. They wanted the Space Needle in the background, which did make for like a very picturesque setting. But boy, the sun was like right next to the needle.
Yeah, no, it was a situation, that's for sure. Those people are professionals. That is also for sure. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, for a while, Dylan, I don't know how much, I know you guys have, over on um basically everything, university hockey that I've listened to. I am a good listener. I do pay my Patreon, fee.
You do.
You do. I just hope you're glad when you see my name come up. Um that it didn't seem like there was going to be branding right away with the jersey. I didn't think so. It is interesting to note that they will get a team identity um, before the season starts. Same with Vancouver, of course, but we are not a Vancouver show. Could go up to Vancouver sometime. I don't know. Uh, but they'll get set sometime before the season starts, and then that will go into an actual jersey starting next year, their second year in the league. I guess very basic to start off with. Do you have any thoughts on them? Because it's very generic. It's what the inaugural six teams of the PWHL did. Like, I don't know. Was there anything when you first saw them, you're like, okay, this sticks out to me? Are there any other thoughts besides, yep, this is like essentially a beginner jersey?
Yeah, they are generic. They are pretty basic. I think the first things that popped out to me were the things that I noticed back when they unveiled the color scheme back when we got like the logo, right? The generic PWHL Seattle logo that we first got when the team was announced. And I'm a big fan of like the off-white and the kind of cream color going with like that more vintage look. And so I've always been a fan of that. I really like the away jerseys that they have. I think that those look pretty clean. Those look good. I don't think it comes across as too cream colored or too off-white. I think that the teal, the kind of greenish teal that they have as their main color really pops on the name and the lettering on the back of the away jerseys, which we didn't see too much of today in person. They kind of changed into those right as they were leaving. But I
Yeah.
think that the away jerseys, the away jerseys look really good. I'm a big fan of those. The home jerseys are feel a little bit more basic, a little bit more standard. Like I think that the color scheme works. I'm not totally sold on the blue accent. It's
Mm,
pretty Boston Fleet. That's what somebody in our
yes.
Discord said, and I looked at it and I was like, oh, it is actually. But I think that once it has a logo and the branding is fully there, and you have kind of like non-generic shoulder patches and things like that. I think it's going to really come together because I am very much a fan of the colorscape and everything. And so I recommend it to people if you're looking to get, if you want a jersey to have for this season, right? Because these are the jerseys they're going to wear this season. These are the jerseys that fans are going to be able to buy this season. I think only the home jerseys might be up for sale right now. I don't know about the
Yeah,
away
as of
jerseys.
now.
Yeah, but I think that what I would probably do is I would get one of the away jerseys this year with just the Seattle on the front and all of that because I think it looks a little bit better in my opinion. And then next year get the home jersey with the branding and everything like that. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they decide on, right? Because it feels like hockey teams here so far have nailed the branding aspect of things.
Yes.
The winning part, they got to work on that. Um, yeah, no, the blue, yes, I am interested to see how that all tie in, right? Because I'm
Hmm.
sure they have an idea of what's going on um with that, but yeah, I don't know. With so many of the teams around here, there's a lot of blue, and then look over here to reference.
Yeah.
Uh, there's not a lot of the darker green though. So I do like seeing that. Yeah, as you mentioned with the logo that came out, like there was going to be that cream, which I don't mind. I prefer that to just a flat white. So
Me
for
too.
what it is, it's fine. It does the job.
Yeah.
It's a
It
placeholder.
Right, it is. And that's what these jerseys are. They're going to be something nice for OG fans, right? It's if you pick up a jersey, it's something to prove that you were there from day one. You care
Yep.
about women's sports and you're there and you're supporting it. And I think that that's a great thing. And I think that that's going to be a cool thing to have and a cool thing to see fans wearing to these PWHL Seattle games for many, many years. Like, it's going to be really neat to see that. I think that as for like the rest of the jersey design, I mean, I think, because this is essentially them just carrying over what the original six teams did before. I think they kind of nail like font choices and things like
Mm.
that. Like they're very easy to identify numbers on the back of the jerseys from wherever you are in the arena, and they look good there. I think that that's a big positive. I think that the color choices for these jerseys work really well with that. I was a little unsure of how the away jerseys might work with that, with the green. I was with the teal. I was worried that that might be a little bit too bright, and it might like on some of the nameplates like blend together a little bit. But I didn't have that experience in person at all. I thought everything came across very easy to read and identify who was who. So I think that all that stuff is really positive. I think that the energy around this team is really good. The vibe is really good. I'm just, I'm a hockey guy. I'm waiting for hockey stuff to start. That's really what I'm waiting for, is training camp to kick off here in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think and that's a perfect transition to, what I wanted to also talk about was just any sort of vibe you got. We had this sort of if the clip I got worked, I'll get it out, but there was also someone doing like work around Time and Pledge while we were doing the group
Yeah.
scrum, so the audio might not be great. But yeah, we got a group scrum, Corinne Proder, Alex Carpenter, Caleb Barnes, Hillary Knight, and the team's first round pick in the entry draft, and a Buglioni were all there to answer some questions. I wanted, I always like seeing, I'm not quite the sound of hockey guys with the goalie gear corner, but I am
Mhm.
interested to see the setups for Schroeder, for Jackson, for Hannah Murphy. So I'd love to see that. But yeah, I don't know. I think what you were saying with hockey getting to
I
this, I
think
think
I
the
I
team
think
wants to play.
Schroeder's kit did leak today. Both
Oh,
her
and the
and
PWHL post.
Vancouver. There was a goalie post. One of the goalie Instagram accounts posted something. So not to cut you off there or anything, but
How dare
I
you?
don't know if you like maybe trying to get a live reaction or something like that. I
Well,
will
I'll look
say
at.
for both of them, it's pretty standard stuff because I think again you're waiting on that branding because you
Oh,
want to
yeah.
maybe design around that. But we do have a little bit there. No masks though. I mean that will be really the
This is
thing that we're
true.
waiting for is the masks.
Oh, the Mashmeyer set's pretty nice. Sort
Yeah,
of
but
vintage look.
I was gonna say, do the Vancouver jerseys not look like Islanders jerseys?
They do. They
My
they look like
girlfriend
an
saw them
older,
and was like, "Oh, what? They're just like the '80s Islanders,"
maybe
which
not.
not a bad decade to be the Islanders, I guess. But
No, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Those I did totally have wiped.
I,
Yeah, I was totally focused on
I
Seattle, and then I looked into the folder with their photos. I was like, oh, yeah.
I will say it does feel like what they did was they took the green teal from the New York Sirens and they were like, okay, Seattle, that's your main color, and then they took the orange from the New York Sirens and they gave it to Vancouver and they were like, okay, that's your accent color.
We're just gonna take the siren stuff. We're gonna let you go with it.
8 teams, yeah, there's not 8 colors out there. We got to start reusing them right away. Um, but I think
But
that like again, yeah, sorry to cut you off again, but I think like the jerseys look good in a lot of the different like situations, like the photos that the team released and stuff where the players are
mm,
wearing them in different settings and when they're like moving and natural and stuff. I think that they look really good. They look like something that could be, especially in my opinion, the away jerseys look like something that can just be part of like your lifestyle brand kind of thing,
mm,
right? Like you can wear
that
that and it
sells.
says and it says Seattle and you're just, you're repping your city, you're repping your team and I think it just kind of works for things like that. So I do want to applaud them on that. I think it works better than the Vancouver ones because the orange stripe on the arm does kind of like pull you out of just like, oh, that's just somebody cool wearing a jersey into like what's going on there.
Yeah, that stripe kind of gives it more of like what a fashion jersey fanatics
Yeah.
will. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, no, especially the road one for Seattle. I definitely see what you're saying. Like that, someone can pull off a crazy fit with that. I'm not good with fashion, so I'm not gonna
Yeah, you
try.
do that over a sweatshirt. You got the hoodie, the hood hanging out the back. Like you'll look stylish. I could totally see like people on college campuses, whatever, wearing something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
No, all I was trying to transition to was just what you thought the vibe was at the event. It does seem like you're talking about trying to get to training camp. Just I think this team is tired of talking about they're very professional. We'll get that out of
Yeah.
the way. They're very professional, but they want to get on the ice. They want to start implementing,
Want to do their
whatever
job.
this they want to do their job. It's all the PR and the fanfare is great. It's exciting to drum up the interest, but what else drums up interest but winning and creating a good product on the ice? It is a what sort of product, Dylan? It is a not product. It is a results driven business. I
Yes, it
love hearing
is.
that because it's true. Yeah, I don't know. Would you have any sort of takeaways from that's all it seemed like to me, like talking to Barnes, talking to Carpenter. They want to practice, they want to play. We want to get moving here. Obviously, the regular season doesn't start till like a month from now, but camp, I'm sure they're going to get a lot of folks in market pretty soon and at least start to implement systems and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that everybody seemed like that's kind of where they were at, right? Listening to them talk. They want to get on the ice. They are hockey players. They want to play hockey. And I think that that's great. I can't wait to watch them play hockey and to see what this team is going to have in store for us throughout training camp as they, yeah, install systems, kind of go through all that. I mean, we have some experience here in the Seattle market covering hockey with what training camps for one, an expansion team looks like, and then two, what teams just with new head coaches and having to come together and plan out what is going to be the identity on the ice of this team. What systems are we going to run? What are we going to be going for? Are we going to be defensively minded and then be a hard forechecking team? Do we want to try to win a skill-based game? I think one of the interesting things about this roster is that you have a lot of different play styles available to you. This roster is so deep, it's so stacked, but it has a lot of players on it that are pretty versatile, or you could see taking on different roles depending on what the team wants. You have a lot of very skilled wingers on in this group that if you do want to match a team's skill, you can go out there and you could try to play fast. You could let them go out there and try to score goals. If you want to, kind of grind it out, you have an incredible blue line and a great goalie in the crease that you could grind out some wins. And then of course Hillary Knight, who's going to be like the best power forward in the history of women's hockey for forever, basically, right? And so, I think that this team is going to have a lot of things open to them as far as what they end up wanting to play like. But I'm sure if I'm one of these players, certainly if I've already moved to Seattle, it sounds like not everybody has yet. They're still,
Mm.
going through that process. But if I'm one of the players who's already out here and you're doing this kind of stuff, that's the stuff that you probably want to be thinking about and you want to be starting to work on because, they are at the end of the day, even though very generous expansion process and they have a lot of great players, it is going to be an expansion team and they're going to have to come together. They're going
Yes.
to have to build chemistry with each other on and off the ice. They're going to have to learn systems and they're going to be entering a league where, these other teams have played for several years with each other now. And so that is going to be something that at least earlier on in the schedule is going to be difficult for them.
It's a great point, is it is an expansion team side of things, um and especially the generous, as you mentioned, expansion draft process and the exclusive signing window, all that sort of stuff. Uh, Other teams around the league were not happy at
Yes.
all with how things went, and with this league seemingly, as I know you and I have had a few conversations about it here and there, but this league wants to move quick. They're
Yep.
willing to accept the risk. Seems like they're going to keep going, pretty quickly with trying to get other waves of expansion. Who knows what the draft process will look like going forward? Who know? There are great markets out there that want a team. I know they're going back to Detroit. They're going to go to Chicago. We haven't seen
Hmm.
them go to California yet. Um, But something too that I remember Hiller Knight saying today was there's going to be a target on their back, which I think is fascinating. I don't necessarily, I might be forgetting. I was only around like starting, I wasn't there the whole year for the inaugural season. And I know only recent last few years been up here full time, but I don't remember that necessarily being a storyline with the Kraken. I think people knew with how that roster looked, they weren't necessarily going to be have a target on their back. But I don't know. It's cool to have some expectation out of the gate. I mean,
Mhm.
you've kind of touched it on it already, but yeah, you touch on it a good amount. But I don't know. It's interesting, to talk with a great hockey mind. Like you mentioned again that early part of the schedule. I guess like, outside of what you've mentioned already, because you've already kind of answered it. What do you look for with this group before we get to training camp? Because I'm sure just seeing some of that on ice stuff will tell you a little bit more about this group, how they'll gel immediately. They've had some of the same players together for these media tours. So, maybe there's some early chemistry there. Kayla Barnes mentioned some text chain, so on and so forth. I think she's one of the players that's already settled, but yeah, I don't know. From you, it could be purely hockey, but I don't want to keep you in that box. If you're looking for other things, I'm interested to hear that too. But yeah, what do you look for in terms of success? Because once the expansion draft ended, people were saying, "Hey, maybe not exactly Walter Cup." There are some people who are very excited and are saying that,
Mhm.
but the expectation is playoffs. Granted,
Yeah.
it's a team league, but still, like they expect this team to be good and to be good in their first year.
Yeah, no, I think the expectation for most people is that they're going to be competitive at the very least. And I think that certainly this is a group that is good enough on paper to be competitive throughout the season and probably realistically fairly soon, right? Like I could see, they're going to have the two kind of scrimmage games a couple
Yes.
days, really just a couple days after training camp starts. They're going to be getting into a couple scrimmage games up in Vancouver against the Vancouver squad. I think that those are going to help the coaching staff a lot, kind of figure out line combinations, defensive pairings, all that kind of stuff, just to see who has early chemistry with each other. And then you can really roll with those pairings and groupings throughout the rest of training camp and try to get everybody into more of like a regular season groove with each other. So I think that like those are going to be something that's going to be, worth looking at. Unfortunately, fans aren't going to be able to watch them. I think that that's a real shame. But I understand why they're kind of not doing that. I think that, yeah, I mean, hockey wise, there's lots of things that I want to look forward to and kind of talk about there. But I think that when it comes to like off ice stuff or mindset type stuff, I think that, there's the kind of obvious storylines, right? Hillary Knight is, I'm not saying she's old, but she's getting up there in age. She's played for a long time, and this very much does feel kind of like, you know, this is gonna be maybe her last go of things, right? She's got the Olympics this year, she's got
Yeah.
this new PWHL team opening in a new market, all of that kind of stuff, and she has very much taken on the role whenever we, have media experiences with the team or anything like that. She's very much taken on the de facto captain role, right? Would not surprise me if she's captain, at some point. The big one for me though is I think that I can't wait to see what this like Alex Carpenter revenge tour is going to look like, right? Because I think from the very first media availability we had with her right after the expansion draft, and she was not protected by New York, and she was left available, and then she signed, and then we had that media availability, that Zoom call. She looked pissed. Like she looked genuinely upset that she was not one of the few players protected. And again, it was kind of insane how few players could be protected in this expansion process. So, like, I understand why New York did what they did, but I think that she was genuinely upset by that. And, she's a great athlete. And what do great athletes do when you give them bulletin board material? They go out there and they use it, right? They're going to take that anger, they're going to channel it. And generally that means bad things for their opponents. So, I'm kind of intrigued to see that from Alex Carpenter this year, just because I think that she really has a lot of motivation to go out there and she wants to prove that, yeah, New York made a mistake by not protecting her. And I know she's only on a 1 year deal here in Seattle. I don't know if Seattle's going to be where she ends up long term. But I think that she wants to use this year to really set herself up then for free agency and be able to control her destiny, but really prove to the league that she was, you know, New York made a mistake when they did not choose to keep her.
Yeah, no, with some of these veterans specifically, it is, yeah, as you mentioned, teams had to make tough decisions. I remember talking to Lydia Murray, her and Lydia covers the fleet, talking about how it didn't, all things pointed to Hillary not being pumped, not being thrilled about being exposed. But as you mentioned, yeah, like this is the last run at the Olympics. She has confirmed she does want to play at least a couple more years. Or doesn't I don't think there was an exact time on like
Yeah.
two more years, 3 more years, right? But yeah, like today specifically with the group scrum, it was like Hillary was, taken front and center. I know at times she was like, well, others if they have, answers to it, but to go back on it, I'd be shocked if she wasn't named captain. Like
Yeah.
I'd be pretty surprised. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. I mean, she's from Idaho, so it's a little bit closer. I'm not saying she's like a Washington State native, but it's closer to family. I could certainly see this being like, hey, let me play the last couple of years of my career, get this thing off the ground. But also, yeah, she's talked about wanting to win a Walter Cup. Boston came close. They fell to Minnesota. There was the really unfortunate implosion of the fleet last season,
Hmm.
at the end of the year. She's going to want to win, in this group. Who knows what happens to the roster after this season, right? But they're going to
Yeah.
be at least, as you mentioned, competitive from year one. So, um, yeah, it's a great point with Carpenter. She also seemed very eager to get going, at least talking today. But yeah, I mean, you've got a very fun roster. I think dynamic's a fair word to mention in general with the, you know, group that's not in the crease, and even in the crease, you've got Corinne Schroeder, who's been great.
Hmm.
Farley Jackson's a veteran. Hannah Murphy had great numbers at Colgate. I remember,
Yeah.
so, I don't know. It should be fun. It should be fun to cover a competitive team from day one. I don't mean to totally shit on the Kraken, but it should be interesting. I mean, it's great
Hmm.
that they've got this structure um, of having the facility. Sorry, the Iceplex close. It works. And
Yeah.
CPA. Um, Even talking to Kayla Barnes, she said, in Montreal with the Victoire, like they had the same sort of thing, but Seattle's are a lot closer, which is nice. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It'll be fun. It'll be nice. I know you guys have some plans. I don't think you want me to talk more about that, but it'll
I,
be nice
we've
seeing you guys around the rink, still.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely be covering PWHL Seattle. We're excited for it. We've kind of talked about it. Like we don't have too much to totally unveil right now, but we are going to have a podcast that follows the team. Might do some Patreon content. We've talked about like maybe live game commentary, stuff like that for our Patreon subscribers. So we're going to kind of wait and see like just really what this all ends up looking like, right? Because up until this point, there just hasn't been a ton from the team. As far as availability, I mean, this is the first time that I've seen players in person. Everything up until this point for
Yeah,
me has all just been over Zoom calls and stuff like that. And, really one of the things I'm most excited for with training camp to get underway is just to meet more of this roster. Because,
yeah,
like, and I get it, right? Hillary Knight, super recognizable player, the name recognition. I mean, she has been a superstar for so long now. And so I understand like always wanting to lead with her, lead with Alex Carpenter. I think Kayla Barnes has probably been the most enthusiastic player of anybody, right? Like wanting to come here, celebrate West Coast women's hockey
yeah,
and really promote all of that stuff. I love that as a West Coast native myself, somebody whose sister grew up playing. I love seeing that from Kayla Barnes. But like I wanna, get to training camp and I want to see what like Jesse Eldridge looks like out there on the ice up close. I
yes,
want to see Hannah Bilka. I want to see what Julia Gosling maybe in a more expanded role than what she got in New York or in Toronto looks like. So I think that there's going to be there's lots of stuff that I'm still really excited about, but I want to kind of, it's always great talking to Hillary Knight. It's always great talking to Alex Carpenter. It's always great talking to Kayla Barnes. But there's a lot more women on this roster that I can't wait to see and get to know off the ice, and then also get to see them on the ice and what they can kind of do together as they come together, right? I mean, it's expansion teams are always fun because, I don't think it's going to end up like a Kraken scenario. This roster is just substantially better than what that roster was for the Kraken. But there's just so many storylines like those that I think are going to be really interesting to see, right? Does Bilka end up playing with Hillary Knight? Do they carry
Yeah.
over that chemistry from Boston? Again, kind of similar with like Eldridge Carpenter. Do we see that? Lots of stuff like that. Surdachny, like what does she get an expanded role out here? Like there's going to be some really interesting storylines. And again, I'll just come back to it. I'm a hockey guy. I can't wait for the hockey to start.
No, absolutely. And yeah, like a Serdachny, who I guess was technically the first official signing, even though Knight was
Yeah.
recorded for that still kills me. Um, yeah, and that like their inaugural draft class and the entry draft had a lot of players who, I don't know how you feel about it, but who wore letters in college, who have some sort of
Yep.
leadership role. So on top of being in a very veteran team, you've got a group that has leadership from the younger side of things. The blue line's fun with Barnes, getting Emily Brown over here, another Fleet player,
Yep.
a lot of Montreal on there, but Megan Carter. Um, so yeah, no, I think what you bring up is a great point with some of like not the I guess top stars, right? Because it's easy for anybody in the world, I guess, to cover the top stars because they're so recognizable. There's so much about them, but telling the stories of these other players, especially in an expansion draft year,
Mhm.
sorry, an inaugural year, yeah, it's a great point. So,
And it's
um,
an Olympic year, and a lot of these players are going to
yes,
be fighting for Olympic spots, right? Hillary Knight, shocking, she's going to be on Team USA, right? Like, spoiler alert. Alex Carpenter, she's going to be on Team USA. But a lot of these other women are going to be, their performance in the PWHL, at least during the earlier parts of this year, could make a big difference on whether or not they make their national
Mm,
teams for the Olympics. And I think that that's going to be a really fun story to cover for us on the media side of things and to be talking to the players. Who's going to be thinking about that? Who doesn't want to be thinking about that, right? As they get underway in the PWHL, Seattle season. So I think that there's going to be lots of fun storylines for fans to watch beyond just the fact that we all get to celebrate the fact that this team exists and that professional women's hockey is going to be in Seattle being played at Climate Pledge Arena and just the excitement around that alone. I think that there's a lot more for fans to be able to kind of dive into. And I know on the media side of things, I'm very excited to dive into those storylines and get things going. As great as it is to have a super recognizable star like Hillary Knight, I mean that'll help bring in a lot of people and get people excited. And I think that she's a great player for, younger players to watch, not just on the ice, but also off the ice, how she carries herself, all of that kind of stuff. I think it's great to have people like that to help build a culture and all of that. But yeah, I'm ready to see the rest of the roster.
I think that's a great point to, kind of close this out. I think we're all just like the players, we're ready to go. We want to get to
Yeah.
training camp. We want to start telling these stories and doing stuff like that. So yeah, no, it'll be great to have you and RJ around and see what this is going to be like. Because depending on, I imagine they're still going to be on YouTube. I don't know if there's going to be a North American media rights deal or anything like that, or locally. I don't know if they do it locally, as the Kraken Hockey Network is in the corner. Um, but I mean, YouTube is accessible to everybody. Like
Hmm.
it's the product's going to be out there. Like you said, it's going to be a climate pledge. They're not going to put it at WHL rink. So yeah, I thought this worked really well. Me and as everybody who knows the two of us, me and my best friend Dylan.
Yeah.
Surely. So no, it'll be great. It'll be great to get going. I always let RJ pump up whatever you guys have going on. I haven't looked at the calendar for you guys for the month of October. I know we're kind of wrapping up the month. What
Hmm.
you've already, kind of touched on what you guys will be doing for PWHL Seattle. I tried to not like spill the beans on everything.
Hey, again, there isn't too much to spoil. We're gonna do a podcast. It'll be every other week. We're looking forward to that, and yeah, just getting to cover the team. Otherwise, like right now, we've always got our post game lives after Kraken games this year, down to one a week instead of every game. Although now after every game, we do put out a video on the non post game live days, which are every Tuesday that the Kraken have a game. If not Tuesday, then Wednesday. We have our post game debriefs, which are just little 3 minute, Instagram Reel, YouTube Short style videos where we recap the game. And then yeah, over on Patreon, I mean, this upcoming Thursday for the game in Winnipeg, we have our live game commentary. So if you're a Patreon subscriber, or if you want to go and check it out, you can sign up for a free 7-day trial. You can join us on Thursday and watch the game with me and RJ and just ask us questions as things are going on, and hear the stuff that me and RJ talk about whenever we're watching hockey together, breaking it down, live as it's happening. It's always a ton of fun. We always have great time. Always get up to fun shenanigans with the community during the intermissions. So it's good stuff. So looking forward to that.
Again, as someone who does pay them these guys money, my money does go to them. It's great. It's a lot of fun. I do enjoy Dylan's prospect chats. When he does that, the
That's
armchair
upcoming on the
GMs.
30th, by the way.
See, there you go. Trying to tee you off here. It's great. I think we've got a great group of hockey folks out here in the Pacific Northwest. So fun to do stuff like this. And yeah, I want to get going. I'm done with the media tours. I'd like to put the puck down and get to work. So
Especially because, Kraken started and then they left. We all got like
yeah,
ready to go, and then we got 2 games, and the Kraken took off for 2 weeks. And so yeah, it's like, all right, like I need something to fill the hockey void here.
yeah, it'll be I haven't looked too much at the schedule to see when they're both like gone and when there'll be a void, but I imagine, having them, it will be busy around here, but I like to say it's a good busy, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, man. I'm sure I'll have you around again. I've wanted to talk to you about Kraken prospects for a while. So until we see next time, take care of yourselves, be well, whatever you can to make today a great day.